Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we are talking cash management, the cash reconciliation process, and one firm's work to bring advanced cash management to Dynamics 365 Business Central. My guests are Carole Darcy and Derek Beaupre of Nolan Business Solutions. The company has recently launched their Business Central solutions for cash management, and they're also the sponsor of today's episode. Derek and Carole share the Nolan perspective on bringing a successful solution from the Dynamics GP world to Business Central and why that move is so crucial for partners looking to sell both new BC deployments as well as upgrades and migrations from legacy Dynamics ERPs. One of the key trends we dive into is the proliferation of commerce channels and the complex cash reconciliation challenges that come with it. They explain how to evaluate Business Central's standard cash management capabilities, how ISVs like Nolan can help smooth the path from GP to BC. They offer some outlook on the Business Central roadmap itself and their own product roadmap. All right, well, I'm here with Carole Darcy and Derek Beaupre. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for having us, Jason.
Great to have you here. Why don't we start with just a bit of an introduction for our listeners so we can kind of set up the conversation. Carole, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm Carole Darcy, Director of Sales and Marketing here at Nolan, and happy to join this podcast today so we can talk a little bit more about our brand new products that we recently released for the BC platform.
All right, excellent. Looking forward to getting into it. And hey, Derek, welcome to you as well.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. Great to be here. For those who haven't had a chance to ever meet me before in person at any events, I'm Derek Beaupre. I'm the Channel Development Manager here at Nolan. And happy to be here, Jason.
And yeah, just for a bit of context, I guess we should perhaps mention that you're just coming back from the Summit event. So that was a fairly big sort of meeting point in the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually my first trip out of Canada post-COVID. So it was fantastic to get out, be down in Florida and see a lot of people, both, a lot of partners we hadn't seen in a while and get a chance to interact with some end users as well. It was fantastic.
All right, excellent. Yeah. Well, I thought we could start with sort of a bit of setup and history to really explain to our listeners what your expertise is and why we're talking today. I think when it comes to Nolan's history in the ERP space and your expertise with cash management, there's been a real evolution, I guess, over time, both in your company and I guess in the industry more broadly. Carole, do you want to help sort of set up sort of what customer expectations are like with ERP today and maybe a bit about where it's coming from?
Yeah, for sure. Like when we think about, cash management, if we think about maybe not even that long ago, 10 years ago, things were fairly simple, right? So people, the accounting team was very comfortable using Excel spreadsheet to do most of their cash management or cash reconciliation. But as we know, with the arrival of e-commerce and everything, there's a lot of complexities that got added to just a simple cash management or cash reconciliation process. I guess is not that simple. Excel just doesn't really cut it anymore, prone to errors. And then what I've recently noticed with some prospects too is they show me, we talk to these prospects and they show me these spreadsheets and I'm just like, wow, those are fantastic, but complicated. And you end up realizing on a call with 4 or 5 people that there's only one person really that knows what's going on here with managing the cash and reconciling. So more and more organizations are realizing that these outside ways of doing things is maybe a little old-fashioned, and for control purposes, for auditing purposes, everything, trying to capture a little bit more of that process inside the ERP is becoming really needed. And in addition to that is people are looking for daily cash reconciled positions. So it's becoming more and more with a fast-paced economy, more and more important to understand what your cash position is at any point in time. So those, good old monthly bank reconciliation process just doesn't cut it anymore.
One of the things I think I heard you say there, or maybe hinted at, was there are often, when you're relying on spreadsheets, when you're relying on sort of individuals to take care of those kinds of responsibilities, there can be sort of institutional knowledge in like critical things that individuals sort of have in their heads that can be really important to get out to be represented in the systems themselves more thoroughly. Is that part of the challenge here?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that there's organizations are realizing more and more that, relying on the individual is just one, prone to errors, but also just, what happens when this person goes. And we've had situations like that where clients come to us and they're like, we're so lost. We haven't reconciled for months because, that person that was doing this complex spreadsheet left 3 months ago and we're just don't know how to tackle this anymore. So we certainly have our share of people coming to us just from that perspective.
I think one thing I've noticed in my time at Nolan has been really too just that shift where people now aren't really questioning, cloud-based solutions as much as they used to. Now everyone seems to be quite a bit more comfortable with it. And, really they expect a bit more. They're starting to look to automate things that used to be a lot more manual, like Carole was saying. Operating that spreadsheet can take quite a bit of time and effort. So.
Maybe to take another of the point that's been mentioned here a little bit further, and Derek, maybe you can add to this one too, is the addition of, I think, Carole, you referred to this too, was, adding channels. There's e-commerce is way more common than it was last time someone deployed ERP. Other channels through perhaps marketplaces or other kinds of channels that are digital or otherwise that weren't there before. And all of that sort of has to be synthesized, I guess, to some degree through a new ERP deployment. And that just, I suppose, adds to, cash reconciliation complexity. Derek, is that in line with what you're hearing when you're talking with prospects?
Yeah, absolutely. It seems, when we're talking with prospects and with clients, that I don't know that there's many we find anymore who aren't looking to offer their clients the ability to, interact with them either online or, accept any variety now of electronic payments, which, we never saw before, but now you have hundreds of different payment gateway options available to you, from the big ones, your Shopify's, your PayPal's, even now seeing just the kind of proliferation of the virtual banks. I mean, these are things that, weren't around when a lot of these legacy systems, were created, and it really wasn't a consideration. So yeah, it's a big change. It's a big change, and, it can't be handled the same way that you necessarily handle reconciling your bank.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, really, it's about, with this additional layer of complexity, I'd say, because sometimes people say, oh, okay, well, yeah, you're about bank reconciliation. Yeah, no big deal. But it's really kind of stepping out of that box and thinking, okay, well, bank reconciliation is much more than that. It's about reconciling those various inflows, outflows of cash. And on the inflow side, as we're talking about, money comes into a business in such a variety of ways. And if we're really talking about online e-commerce and all that, and credit card merchant gateways, as we were all referring to here a minute ago, is really how do you reconcile that revenue that you're posting in your GL to what you actually received from your credit card merchant? So oftentimes people say, I don't want to talk bank rec. I want to talk about that piece. Like, how do I handle making sure that everything I've recorded in my GL is actually what I received? How do I address timing differences? All of these in transit orders, because, we record that in the GL, but we don't see it with the credit card merchant 2 days later. So people are really sort of struggling with reconciling that big influx of cash that is really translated into one big lump sum in the bank statement, but there's so much behind it. So that's where not only do we have tools to help customers do that, but we also have the expertise to help you implement best practice in doing that reconciliation.
Well, I wanted to get your input on, given all those complexities and challenges, how has Microsoft kept up? I mean, clearly they've moved ahead with their ERP roadmap and landscape with Business Central as sort of the future for SaaS ERP, especially in the mid-market and smaller businesses. What's been your read on that? Carole, maybe start with you on this one.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my read on that would be that, like any other ERP software vendor, I think they all do a great job at having a nice general ERP platform. But what Microsoft is doing particularly well is working with the ISV network to enhance capabilities for people that need it. So where I'm going with this is with the BC platform, for instance, they've done a great job at delivering a cloud-based accounting software with some pretty good basic bank reconciliation capabilities. But when you get into the complexities we were just talking about, and especially companies that have large volumes of data, there is a need for that additional level of automation, whether that's, reliably connecting to your bank to bring in that bank data, or having a great way of auto matching and auto posting bank data so that you can remove the manual process out of that as much as possible. So I think that's where Microsoft, for instance, comes to partners like ourselves. So a bit of a fun fact here, Microsoft actually reached out to us in this process and said, hey, you guys are, the guys that knows how cash reconciliation work. We offer a great base solution for bank reconciliation, but can you guys take this to the next level for our customers? So we actually worked really closely with Microsoft in developing those BC solutions.
Interesting. And I have to just say my own perception or observation is the team behind Business Central seems more comfortable than they've ever been with kind of embracing that mentality or that approach that we will be looking to ISVs with expertise in certain areas, and we won't shy away from it. And perhaps, you can give me your impression, but perhaps they've worked to make it easier for customers to bring in solutions that do have those specialized capabilities or more advanced capabilities.
Yeah, I think so. Derek, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think even with ourselves, we've been working in the cash management space within ERP systems for 30 years. And, there's a lot of experience that's come out of that. And, it's nice to work with a team like Microsoft where they really embrace that and try and, use that as well. So that, like Carole had mentioned, not everybody has more complex requirements, but you're gonna, it's not a solution tailored to any one industry or one vertical. We see, clients of all kinds of different sizes and from all industries. And really, it's tough for any one solution out of the box to meet everybody's needs. And I like the fact that, the Microsoft team kind of embraces that and leans on partners who have been around for a long time, who not only Microsoft knows and trusts, but their partner channel knows and trusts.
All right, excellent. Yeah, I'd be interested to dive into maybe a little bit more about the work that's gone into, since Nolan does have a sort of a long legacy with GP, what some of the adaptation or some of the work that's gone into working with the BC team. Is there any more you could add about that experience thus far, Carole?
Yeah, no, for sure. We are definitely leveraging that, 30 plus years of experience in the GP world. We were there right from the beginning. Over time, we've heard lots of feedback. We've enhanced our products. We've actually also have a sister product in the NetSuite world. So that's where we've gathered all of our experience. So leveraging all that, leveraging our knowledge, leveraging the newer technologies, we've really been able, I've been sort of saying, really been able to develop products for the BC platform that are really on steroids, that are just taking the best of everything we've done so far. So I think the BC community will sort of benefit from that experience and really see tools that can take their cash management or their cash reconciliation experience to the next level. Am I forgetting something, Derek, on that?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. And it's definitely represented a change for, a lot of partners as well as end users, but I think it's a really positive one.
If I can add actually too on that is that we have our GP ABR customers are talking to us right now and they're saying, look, we are contemplating a migration to BC, but we know from our partner that, it's basic functionality that's just not going to meet our needs. And it's one of the main stumbling block to them migrating to BC. So the fact that we can reassure our GP channel that if you are contemplating a migration to BC, the features you've come to love with our products are going to be available on that platform seems to be a big relief from recent discussions. But having said that, I also want to highlight that even though we've created this great product in BC, we are still committed. We know that some GP customers are still very comfortable on that platform and want to remain on it. We're actually really comfortable with it too. So that's there to stay with continued enhancement to our product and full support as well. So just a lot of options for our channel.
Well, that's a great point, Carole. You definitely see, especially with people who have been running GP for, 10 or 15 years, who have built in a lot of, really customized functionality from the ISV community. It's not always something they want to leave immediately, but, at least you're seeing those familiar faces and functionalities being translated into BC as well. So it's nice to know that, when it is time to move for some of those legacy clients that, the solutions are familiar with are coming with them.
Derek, I'd like to maybe start with you on diving into that a little bit more from the perspective of actually planning and even implementing Business Central projects in today's environment versus maybe what your team has observed in the past with ERP projects. Obviously, it's a different kind of project than a GP project would have been, or even an NAV project, in past years. Anything you can share about what those engagements look like today?
Definitely. Well, I think we had talked a little bit earlier too and mentioned how it's just there's so much more comfort now with people around the cloud and not necessarily being, tied to an on-premise solution. before, I think there was a lot more unknown elements that, kind of maybe held people back and had them stay with their legacy systems a little bit longer. But now they're starting to see kind of the power they can have leveraging that, especially after, what we went through with the pandemic, and, just seeing that trend towards having people being able to work remotely and still have access to all that information, and to be able to interact and work with, other members of their team when they're not in one another's immediate vicinity. So, I think that trend has been really big and probably been accelerated, with what we just went through. So I think that's a big one is it's less and less having to convince people that, moving to a cloud-based system is a good idea, and more now showing them how taking advantage of the cloud can help their business, can help their people, can get them more efficient, and really be able to focus on tasks that are, core to the business, as opposed to them, just looking back and forth and ticking off boxes. I think the technology now is at the point where, they don't have to do that. They can trust that to someone like Nolan and really have their people working, on things that are more, connected to the business and moving their business forward.
One other sort of element that I've been thinking about a bit more broadly when it comes to Business Central projects, and we touched on this earlier with the sort of the importance of ISV solutions when you're working with a client. But one of the sort of underlying things I think is so critical these days is, and maybe you can clarify this for me too, because I'm actually not sure, but if you work with other partners and let them deploy your cash reconciliation solutions as well, and if so, how important it is for partners to be familiar with what's possible and the capabilities or the more advanced capabilities that you can offer.
Derek is our partner channel development manager. So he loves working with the partner community, and I'm sure he can give you an earful about how important that that channel is to us. We have partners that, yes, want to tackle understanding our products and implement it themselves, but we also, I guess, actually for the vast majority of our partners, they want to rely on our team's expertise to review a cash management process with their clients. So we work really well together. And I think it's because partners, would you say, Derek, they don't feel threatened by our organization and us kind of wanting to get ourselves into their client base and maybe, quote unquote, steal some work. We've just been really good at jointly working together for the benefit of our mutual clients. Thoughts, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen too, for our partners, it's been a bit of a shift in mindset too, as Business Central has grown and developed. It's become clear that, from Microsoft, this is going to be the direction moving forward. So, we've seen a lot of partners who have, we've seen some who've been really early adopters and jumped on board. And we've seen others who've come over a little bit more slowly. And, we've talked to both types of partners taking each of those approaches. And we've had a lot of feedback that, they appreciate, a familiar face from the GP world. And I think there have been a couple of cases here with our early adopters of our BC solution who were actually looking at moving from GP to Business Central. And they actually communicated with their partners that they really didn't want to go until they were able to bring over, the Nolan bank reconciliation. So I think that kind of speaks to people getting attached to the system they have and their processes when it works well and it's efficient. Yeah, but no, the feedback I've been getting from our partners is it's been getting more and more positive the longer it goes, as they get more familiar with kind of the strengths of Business Central and how they're able to show their clients something that, while different, is still going to do what they were used to, but also bring a whole new range of options to them that maybe wasn't there before.
Interesting. Yeah. And I absolutely agree. That has to be part of that conversation. I can't imagine a partner making a case without promising that things will be better than the status quo, as opposed to just a purely technical upgrade of some sort. That's certainly not going to move too many minds out there in the world of being an ERP customer. Maybe we could go back. I did want to kind of get more of your thoughts on sort of looking to the future and what kind of trends are driving ERP, maybe to that same point. What else are your clients looking for? What do you see as sort of the future of business needs when it comes to, ERP solutions?
That's a big question. I mean, this is going to be a personal opinion, and Derek, you can feel free to jump in and give your 2 cents. But for me, I think that people are just really wanting they want compatibility with their solution. They want to have a seamless experience, a seamless integration. And I think even just, the whole cloud concept helps with that, because then there's less need for internal technical expertise around the systems. You can, leave that to the big software vendors in their big pockets, hopefully. But I foresee that people are wanting more and more, again, a seamless experience, a seamless integration of systems. So even from our perspective, when we're developing or looking at enhancing our product from a product roadmap perspective, it's all about how do we work well, not only with just the BC platform, but everything else out there, every other ISV solutions. Because again, we're just a big network of partners, and we're all really trying to make our customers' experience the best or the better. So I think there's just more and more collaboration between everybody to create that seamless experience for users.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary, Carole. We definitely see that changes now. The expectation level is almost a little bit changed. It's almost a little bit higher now. I think as people are seeing, more and more what can be done, that, they're more open to the ideas of, changing processes. Whereas before, getting people to commit to a change can be a big step. And I think it's a little bit more of a comfortable step now.
I would imagine that automation conversations are also more comfortable than they used to be, or less foreign.
Yeah, it's almost an expectation now. People aren't looking to change and lose functionality. They want to maintain everything that they've, grown used to, and at the same time be offered something that, is going to bring something to the table that wasn't there before, that maybe frees up, some of their team members' time to really focus on, core business tasks, as opposed to those little bit more simple tasks that ideally we can automate and, have the most involvement we may need is somebody giving it a visual and checking it after it's done, as opposed to actually a team of people working on it for a couple of days, and dedicating those kind of resources. I think people are starting to realize that, their people's time is better spent doing other things.
In that same spirit of some of the items you were just touching on, is there anything else in your product roadmap that you want to call out before we wrap up today? What are you looking forward to introducing to your products?
Well, for us, we're always looking for, we keep our ears to the ground. And what I mean by that is we've had our development philosophy has very much been listening to what partners are saying, what customers are saying. So our product roadmap is really an evolving process for us. We really, like I said, listen to that channel, and people tell us this is not working well. I need this. And that's what we use to do a product roadmap. So even, sitting here today and saying what's our product roadmap in 6 months from now, a year from now, I have some ideas. And I know that, there are things that we, kind of said this is going to be in version 1, and then we can wait to have that in version 2, and compatibility with other solutions. Like I was saying, those are things that we're going to continue wanting to include as a product enhancement. But I don't know if it's funny, but it's just sometimes a different way of approaching this whole concept of a product roadmap is all about gathering that feedback. And that's what really becomes our product roadmap over time.
I agree. And I mean, it's the more conversations we have with clients, and as we, continue to implement our solution, it just becomes, I think more and more obvious for us the areas that we need to look into. And, with Business Central still kind of being as new as it is, I anticipate we're going to find lots of potential areas for our development team to make those continual little tweaks here and there and just make the experience more seamless. You look back to, if we look back as long as it was when we started in GP, it's a pretty different story than it is now. Even comparative technologies, everything has advanced so far. So yeah, I'm excited actually to see what we end up finding that people are looking for in their Business Central cash management.
And yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, people are not shy, especially in accounting teams and financial professionals. They do tend to tell you what they're thinking when it comes to what they want out of their technology. And to that same point, Microsoft partners typically tend to speak their mind when it comes to what they need to be successful.
Absolutely. Anything
else you wanted to call our listeners' attention to before we wrap up? I mean, it's been a really interesting conversation, and you have a great perspective. So I really appreciate what we've been able to cover here.
Yeah, I mean, just that, for myself, I know it's always, we're always available, and we're happy to chat with anyone, even just to hear, if you have something and you may not know if it's something that Nolan could help with, feel free to reach out. And one of the great things we find in this community is even, if our solution isn't necessarily the one to help you, chances are we may have heard of something. We work very closely with other ISVs in the community with a lot of partners. And I think there's really a really collaborative feel amongst the, historically in the GP channel and now going forward in the BC channel, we're seeing that. And, I think that's a really good thing for the end user when you can have ISVs and partners who are able to work together and just really look out for those, where are those areas we can help. So, I would say that's the big one. If there's anybody out there who's, spending, if you have multiple people working on your reconciliation processes and it's taking you, more than what you measure in like a day or two, then, it might be worth just reaching out to the Nolan team to see how we operate and see if there's somewhere we can help.
Yeah, and actually to that point that you just said, we do have customer stories where clients have had 2-3 people reconciling their cash all month long because it's such a tedious task. And, even just introducing our tools and leveraging our team's experience, they've been able to really reduce that down to a couple days after month end close, which has made some clients very, very happy. So yeah, any sort of process automation or anything that you're looking at in that arena or any other areas of BC for that matter, we're comfortable with that platform and can help out any client, just like Derek said, even just talking through issues sometimes.
Well, Carole, Derek, thank you both so much for being here. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you.
Same here.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jason. We appreciate the time and the conversation.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Derek and Carole for joining. And this message from Nolan. Nolan has a new on-demand webcast. It's on MSDW, all about accelerating your Business Central cash reconciliation process. We've put a link in the show notes. And you can visit them at nolanbusinesssolutions.com and request a customized demo of their solutions, mention hearing about their solutions through MS Dynamics World, and receive a 10% discount on their implementation services. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me by email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. And for all of our updates, please do follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.